Hi, kids. It's Mr. Larry, and I've got another story for you. This one's kind of serious. This book is called Vivian and the Legend of the Hoodoos. Have you ever heard of hoodoos before? There'll be some pictures in the book that kind of show you what the hoodoos look like, and the story will tell you about them. We're going to find out. Well, so the title of the book is Vivian and the Legend of the Hoodoos. The author of the book, the person who wrote the story, is Terry Katasus, and the illustrator is Phyllis Saroff. Let's read. The rabbit brush was done blooming. Pine nuts were ready for picking. Every year, groups from Vivian's Paiute band climbed the mesa to harvest them for winter. Vivian always helped Grandma, but today she had begged to come early, before anyone else. Basketball tryouts were in 3 hours. We'd better leave enough for the others, Grandma said. You know what will happen if we don't. Yeah, Vivian smiled. I know what will happen. Long ago, the old ones, the Tohananongwa, had been bad. Most of the time, Grandma didn't say what they had done, but sometimes she said they had been greedy. They drank all the water from the rivers and the streams. They even drank the snowmelt in the spring. Nothing was left for the other creatures to drink. When the pine nuts ripened, the Tohananonga took them too. It wasn't long before the other creatures asked the god Sinawav, the coyote, for help. And there they are asking him. And look how strange those old ones looked. Wow! Sinawav, who was a trickster, invited the old ones to a huge banquet. He promised them all the food they could eat and all the water they could drink. The Tohonongwa were excited. When the day finally came, they arrived at the feast dressed in their best, but they never left. When they were all together, the coyote punished them by turning them into rocky hoodoos. That's what it means by they never left. Now, on moonlit nights, their spirits could be seen, shimmery shadows at the feet of the columns made from rock. Whoa! And there they are in the picture. Wow. When Vivian was little, Grandma would say, hoodoo, drawing out the word, scary like an owl in the dark. And that would always make Vivian obey. Now Vivian was older. She knew erosion formed the hoodoo rocks, not a trickster spirit. Grandma knew that too. Still, whenever they saw a hoodoo, they teased each other. Must have been bad, they said. Oh, and there they are. Look at those hoodoo rocks. And there's Coyote. When they reached the pinon grove, Grandma asked Vivian to ask the trees permission to pick their fruits. Vivian was impatient. Come on, she said. I already asked permission last year. Humph, Grandma said. She wasn't happy with Vivian. She asked the trees permission herself. They got to work. Grandma picked the low pine cones from one tree. Vivian shook the top branches with a tall stick to loosen the high ones. Soon, Vivian started shooting pine cones into her bucket like basketballs. 2-pointers, 3-pointers, flip around the back and shoot. Didn't I teach you respect for everything and every creature? Now Grandma was really mad. She put down her basket and grabbed Vivian's hand. Come, she said. But I have basketball, Vivian complained. Come, Grandma said again. Vivian had visited sites where the old ones had lived, other times, in other places. This one was different. As she reached the clearing, she almost stepped on a beautiful pottery shard. That's a broken piece of pottery. White zigzags decorated a black background. She had to pick it up. It was bright, like the pot had broken just the day before. Grandma took the pottery shard from Vivian's hand and gently put it back. Things from long ago are sacred, Grandma said. You shouldn't remove them. Then the old woman took Vivian's face in her hand. Our legends say we have always been here. 10, 15 people on this site. 10, 15 on other mesas north of here and east of here. Other clearings, other groups. They lived on high plateaus during the warm months, and during the cool spells, they stayed in caves in the valleys to keep warm. Our people depend on the land, on the little water the rivers and streams give us, on the creatures that give their lives to feed us, on the trees that give their fruit so we won't starve. We depend on each other. Hmm. Grandma's voice, like a Paiute lullaby, filled Vivian. It brought those who had lived on that mesa to life. Through Grandma's story, she could almost see them. Here, a woman sorted pine nuts, singing the pine nut song. Next to her, a young boy slowly dropped pine nuts for his mother to grind. A hunter napped obsidian into tiny arrow points by a rock. Grandma's voice, like a Paiute lullaby, filled Vivian. It brought those who had lived on the mesa to life. Through Grandma's story, she could almost see them. Here, a woman sorted pine nuts, singing the pine nut song. Next to her, a young boy slowly dropped pine nuts for his mother to grind. A hunter napped obsidian into tiny arrow points by a rock. Oh, I got to talk about a couple of words here. Obsidian is a volcanic rock that's almost like a chunk of glass. And napping is like chipping little pieces off. And when you do that, you get something that is really sharp. And that'll make a tiny arrow point that's really sharp. That's what he's doing. Next to him, strips of meat dried in the sun. Those are probably when he was out hunting with his arrows. An older woman sewed skins into a blanket by a fire. Next to a tree, another hunter strung a bow with yucca strings. They had to respect the trees, the creatures, and the water, Vivi, Grandma said. If they didn't, they would die. Slowly, Grandma led her through the ruins. Chips of obsidian littered the ground by a rock. By the ruins of a pit house lay an awl made of bone. There's an awl right there. Can you see that pointy thing? It was perfect for sewing skins. And close to the tree line, a smooth, slender blade of locust wood was barely covered by the sandy soil. It had a notch at one end. Once it had been a bow. Vivian knelt by a large stone and ran her hand over its surface. A gentle dip had been rubbed smooth in its center. It was a matate for grinding nuts and grains. Wow, that's how they made flour, by grinding nuts and grains on that rock, that matate. Vivian and Grandma returned to the piñon grove to finish their task. This time, Vivian asked the tree's permission without being told. She filled her bucket many times, always with respect. Thank you. Thank you for giving your fruit so that we may live, she said when she left. And I think she felt a lot different then. I bet she did really good in basketball too. It never hurts to have a lot of respect. It's always a good thing. So thanks for reading with me. Everybody take really good care. Study hard if you're studying. Play well if you're playing. Think about things a little bit when you get the chance. Be really good, have a lot of respect, and take care. Bye-bye.